guys, welcome to Speak is Confident. You are listening to the podcast where we will be focusing on young English learners and their issues. I'm Florence, your host, and our topic for today will be the tips and tricks to encourage young learners to speak in English. With me today are two special guests, which are an awarded excellent English teacher, Miss Aino from SMK Arjuna Jebat, and her excellent student Fakiha. We will be unfolding this topic, and there's a lot that we will be sharing with you guys, so sit tight and don't go anywhere. So, before we go to the tips and tricks to encourage these young learners to speak English, I want to discuss with you both about the challenges that these learners face. What are really the obstacles to speaking in English? Miss Aino, I would love to hear your opinion first, as an English teacher who had experience in handling various types of students. Can you share about the problems these learners had?
Well, I indeed had to face a lot of students, and what I've learned throughout my years of teaching in English is that the most common problem that these students had to face in order for them to speak in English is their lack of confidence. You see, even students who are really good at writing couldn't do it. They feel apprehensive about speaking English in front of others. For instance, when I asked them questions in English, some of the students they didn't have the courage to answer. And by the look on their faces, I can clearly see that they are really nervous. So that's why self-confidence is very important in speaking English. If students don't believe and are not confident with themselves, it'll be hard for them to speak in English.
And how about you, Fakiha? I'm pretty sure you had your problems too as a student. Mind sharing it?
First of all, I agreed with what Miss Aina said about having lack of confidence, but in my case, my biggest problem is that I am too shy to speak in English, and I'm afraid that I'll make mistakes when I speak with others. As someone who lives in a household that didn't speak in English, I never had the chance to improve my speaking skills with anyone. Plus, most of my friends never speak in English when we talk either. So it's really awkward for me to just suddenly speak in English with them. And yes, I do understand that they also feel that there is no need to casually speak in English other than in English class.
I see. I can totally relate to your situation. My family doesn't usually speak English at home either. The only time that I get the chance to speak in English is when I'm with my friends. How about you, Miss Aino? Is it the same for you too?
In my case, I am actually quite lucky to have siblings that I can speak in English with from time to time. So, this really helps me build my confidence so that I don't feel awkward when I speak with others, especially when I'm teaching, of course.
Now, before we continue the borrowing, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Hello, fellow English learners. Looking forward to mastering a new language, but you don't have anyone to practice it with? Worry not, peeps. We got you covered with our new app, TalkPal. You can find tons of new friends to talk to. Not only are you able to speak English, but you can meet more people from around the globe. So, what are you waiting for? Download now, and it's TalkPal, which is available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Heads up for an exciting experience.
Moving on to our next topic, we sure have identified and understand some of the issues that prevent these young learners from speaking in English. So what can you share about tips and tricks that can use to speak better English? Miss Aino?
Based on our discussion earlier, we can see that the major problem here is confidence. As a teacher, we can't simply provide students with the ability to speak confidently. However, we can be there to encourage them to gain that confidence. So, firstly, I'd suggest to not focus much on the mistakes like grammatical errors or even accent and slang that you use, but rather just speak. This can really help in overcoming the first barrier to developing speaking confidence.
Okay, I see your point there. Any other tips?
Well, using some interesting activities can actually help too, like giving students some free speaking time with a partner or a small group. The only requirement is that they must speak English. You can assign a specific topic for them to discuss, and they can experiment with new words or phrases, and perhaps, most importantly, they can make mistakes. This will enable them to solve problems and learn how to communicate in English, and even better, make improvements. This is one of the activities that I did with Fakiha and her classmates. Do you still remember that, Fakiha?
Yeah, I do remember. It really gave me the opportunity to speak in English with my classmates and talk about various topics.
I also will try to encourage conversations regularly with my students because, personally, for me, every social encounter provides a new opportunity for learners to practice their language skills. Some of the students may want some assistance from you in order to engage in dialogues. So encourage contact wherever possible by asking questions, repeating the students' responses, and even providing encouragement to keep that oral interactions going.
Wow, that really is some interesting ways you did to encourage your students there. So, before we leave, what advice can you give to our listener about speaking in English, Miss Aino?
What I can say is speaking in English is all about the process. Learning English is like a marathon and not a sprint where you only run for a short distance in a short amount of time. Basically, you just need a lot of practice in order for you to speak fluently, and this will surely take time. But the most important thing is confidence. Some people just naturally seem to have it, even when they aren't necessarily the best at something, but for the rest of us, it's something that we'll have to work on over time. So make sure you find it, and do take my word for it that you will find it eventually.
Wow, that is a very lovely advice there. So, take note, young learners out there. Practice makes perfect. And with that, we are at the end of today's Speak is Confidence podcast. Shout out to Miss Aino and Fakiha for joining us. It's a huge honor to have you both here. And also shout out to our listener for listening to this podcast. Stay tuned, guys. We might or might not talk about the best movies to learn English for our next podcast. Anyway, thank you and stay safe, everyone.